It's a bitter pill to swallow.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Cincinnati, Ohio, he's an NWF Hall of Famer, the manager of champions, Professor Bitterman, Kirk Shepard.
It's a bitter pill to swallow.
Hello, Falcons Nest, and hello, YouTube. Welcome to the debut broadcast of The Bitter Pill on the Talkin' Shop Podcast YouTube channel. For those of you who are new to the show, my name is Kirk Shepard. I am Professor Bitterman. I'm a Northern Wrestling Federation Hall of Famer. I'm a longtime friend of the Machine Gun Carl Anderson. And on this broadcast, I aim to bring you content that merges my love of professional wrestling and my experience and knowledge in mental health and self-care. I am the author of a book called Soul Audit that I'd love for you to check out over at kirkshepard.com or wherever you get your books. And I'm also a longtime wrestling fan and someone who's accomplished a lot locally in professional wrestling, including helping the Machine Gun on his journey to making it to the main event of the world. And so he allows me to do this podcast here for you, and I hope that you enjoy it. So every week we start off with the first segment, which is our Wrestler of the Day.
Wrestler of the Day. Wrestler of the Day.
This week's Wrestler of the Day is the incomparable Bruiser Brody. It's unfortunately the anniversary of his death today in 1988 on July the 16th. Bruiser Brody was murdered in Puerto Rico. Now, as I'm recording this on Saturday night, I realize that the Machine Gun is actually in Puerto Rico. Hopefully his fate does not mirror that of Bruiser Brody's. Okay, Frank Goodish, known to the wrestling world as Bruiser Brody, was a larger-than-life in every sense of the word figure. Towering at 6'8" with wild hair and wild brawling style, Brody wasn't just a wrestler, he was a force of nature. During the 1970s, Brody brought a rugged realism to professional wrestling that made him a star in territories across the U.S. and a god in Japan. His matches, as we see here, were chaotic. His promos were intense and his presence magnetic. Fans never quite knew what Brody would do next, and that unpredictability became his calling card. In Japan, he became a legend thanks to his violent wars with Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, and Jumbo Tsuruta. His unchained style and signature running knee lift made him a hero to Japanese audiences, even as he portrayed a terrifying heel. Brody helped pioneer the hardcore brawling style that influenced everyone from Cactus Jack to Jon Moxley. But Brody wasn't just a wrestler, he was also a businessman. Known for fiercely protecting his character and refusing to compromise, he often clashed with promoters and colleagues. Some called him difficult, others called him brilliant. Either way, he never let anyone else control his narrative. Tragically, on July the 16th, 1988, Bruiser Brody's life was cut short when he was fatally stabbed backstage in Puerto Rico. The wrestling world was rocked, and his murder remains one of the industry's darkest chapters. Yet, Brody's legacy lives on. He's remembered not just for his unmatched presence in the ring, but for changing the way wrestlers think about protecting their image and value. Modern stars who blur the line between kayfabe and chaos owe more than just a little to Bruiser Brody. He wasn't just part of wrestling history, he is wrestling history.
Wrestler of the Day. Wrestler of the Day.
Bruiser Brody, our Wrestler of the Day. Once again, thank you for joining us here. If you're brand new, we also do all kinds of other things, including a book club. You want to join the Patreon, the Falcons Nest. If you aren't in there, you want to be in there because we have a discussion forum all about the books and the book club. And so we call it the Bitter Book Club, and you are welcome to join it, and you can catch up with us and read along. We'll catch you up here too. But here's the Bitter Book Club.
It's the Bitter Book Club. It's the Bitter Book Club. Book Club.
The Bitter Book Club. Book for the month of July, or however long it takes us. is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's a life-changing tool that millions of people can't stop talking about. I think that's true. I talk about it almost every day in my therapy sessions with my clients because I find the principles that she's teaching to be remarkably helpful. Now, this week, the assignment was to read chapters 7 and 8, and those two things were when grown-ups throw tantrums and the right decision often feels wrong. So let's talk first about the tantrums, right? So she goes into depth about dealing with people who have the emotional regulation of an 8-year-old and recognizing that isn't about you and that you don't need to engage in that, and you can let them have their feelings and you can let yourself walk away. What she's talking about there, of course, is the basic concept of boundaries. And learning how to set boundaries with difficult people is one of the best things you can do for yourself. It's one of the most important things you can do to protect your mental health. And it's a really helpful thing to teach other people how to treat you. And so when you are learning how to do that, it's really, really hard at first, but it's also really rewarding when you kind of nail it. I think of boundaries like fences, right? And so there's all kinds of fences. And when you're first setting boundaries, and some people need to have barbed wire fences, right? They need to be locked out, and if they get too close, they get pricked by the barbs. Some people can have the white picket fence, and they can come in when they're invited. It just depends on the type of relationship you have, the type of person that you're dealing with, and you get to decide what kind of fence that you put up. So boundaries are really important, and you can talk more about that later with me if you'd like. We do some coaching around that if you'd like to reach out. Now, the other part of this was recognizing that maybe you were the problem, right? If you read this chapter and you realize that maybe you have poor emotional regulation, I have 3 ideas to help you improve that. 1, recognizing it's a huge step. And I would encourage you to find a therapist. I think everyone should be in therapy. I'm biased because it's how I make my living. But I don't see what the downside is, why you wouldn't want to go talk to somebody who is not related to you, who is invested in your well-being, who you can tell anything to, and who will cheerlead you and also call you out when you need to be in a gentle, kind, and very, very compassionate way. So therapy is number 1 if you're realizing you're having emotional problems. But the second thing that's less maybe intense that you can start with now is to recognize the fact that anger is almost always a secondary emotion. What do I mean by that? Typically when people respond with anger, it's because they are protecting and expressing something else. They're scared, they're worried, they are sad, they are hungry. Anger is typically a secondary response or reaction to a different feeling that we don't have the verbiage for, or we're too afraid of expressing for a variety of reasons. And we can talk about vulnerability all day, and I will and still always do. So if you can recognize what am I actually feeling and take a second, that helps. And the third thing is to recognize the impact of trauma on people and what that does to us long term. So I define trauma as anything that happens to us where we lose a sense of power and or control. I'll say that again. Trauma is when we lose a sense of power and or control. And I think that people then spend the rest of their days trying to find that safety that comes with being in control. They're trying to find their power back. And a lot of times anger, because it's expressive and protective, gives us a lot of power or perceived power in relationships. But it may be destroying the very thing that you're trying to do, which is feel safe. So I would encourage you, to go back to number 1, which is go find a therapist to talk about that stuff. I'm sure that over the weeks we will talk more about trauma, power, control, therapy, anger, boundaries, all of those things. Now, let's briefly touch on chapter 8's the right decision often feels wrong. Knowing what we need to do can be in conflict with what we want to do or what we feel like we should do. Like the example she gave about the wedding needing to be called off because they were not getting along, and why would you want to sign up for that? All the drama that comes with a wedding and a marriage if you're already not clicking, right? But the emotional embarrassment that comes with calling off a wedding, the disappointment of other people, the hard feelings everybody has, makes it something we have to pause and think about. Sometimes people, though, use that emotional reaction that they have, like an 8-year-old, as emotional blackmail. Sometimes people even threaten to kill themselves if you don't do what they want. That's an extreme version. And that's why having a therapist that you can talk to about that would be really helpful, because that's a tough thing to navigate. But my hope for you is that you will learn to let them, whatever that means in your situations personally, set those boundaries and make decisions based on what's good for you and good for other people as well. But it's okay to put yourself first sometimes. It really is. So that's chapter 7 and 8 of the Let Them Theory. Next week, we will review chapters 9 and 10. So that's your homework assignment. And in the book club chat on the Patreon, which you can subscribe to over at Talk Shop Patreon. You can find the link, I'm sure, very easily here. When grown-ups throw tantrums, here's the question. Research shows us that most emotions will rise up and then fall away within 90 seconds if you don't react to them. So I wonder if you can think of a time when you wish you had waited 2 minutes before you responded to something, or is there a time when you did and it worked out well for you? And the second question that you can respond to if you choose, has there ever been a time when you chose to do something you didn't want to because emotionally it felt like the right thing would be too hard? We'd love to talk with you more about that over in the Patreon book club chat, or if you just want to journal out for yourself as you read through the Let Them Theory, that would be awesome as well. We're going to close up the book for the day.
It's the Bitter Book Club. It's the Bitter Book Club. Book Club.
Realizing I'm kind of talking fast, I've got a lot to get through today. I've added a new segment, and I think you're going to like it. If you're a fan of the Good Brothers in the Talkin' Shop podcast, you know what I'm talking about here.
Oh no, here it comes. It's a huge pop!
For me, what's popping is what I'm liking right now, and what I'm liking right now, I'm waiting till the party on, I know. But I finally watched The Sopranos season 1, episode 1 this weekend. What a great show. What a great character Tony Soprano is, and what a great therapist he has, right? What a great family, what a great story, what a great show, what a great, great time. And I know I'm late to the party on it. I know all of you have probably seen it, but that is what's making me pop this week.
Oh no, here it comes. It's a huge pop!
Okay. The other thing that we regularly do, although we have other segments that we try to mix into the mix, but one thing that I'm pretty high on, one of my favorite things to do, is our self-care segment that we call Protect the Gimmick.
Protect the gimmick. Take a break, don't be a cynic. Your body's the brand, your mind's the show. You can't make even if you're running on low. Protect the gimmick.
Gotta protect the gimmick. Of course, if you are a wrestling fan, you know that the gimmick is the character, or sometimes it's the merchandise. It's an overarching term, and it means self in my world. So we're going to protect the gimmick by doing self-care. This month, July, because we're using this book called A Year of Self-Care right behind me by Dr. Zoe Shaw, and her July theme is purpose. Last week, she gave us this great quote, this affirmation. Every day, I feel a greater sense of excitement, anticipation, and peace as I further align with my purpose. An affirmation is something you can use every single day to repeat like a mantra. You can also just use it occasionally. But if you wanted to memorize that and say that this month as a thing that kind of helps you feel positive and driven and gives you a sense of purpose, that would be a good idea. Now, let's talk about purpose out of our book of the Year of Self-Care. Once basic needs are cared for, basic needs, I think, are body fuel, body movement, sleep, sunlight, and connection. Right? Other people would say housing and food, and those. I mean, food's part of body fuel, right? But Maslow's hierarchy of needs, my self-care priorities, they sort of match up a little bit. Again, my 5 self-care priorities: sleep, body fuel, body movement, sunlight, and connection. Once those basic needs are cared for, the human psyche begins to seek deeper meaning in life. That's what purpose is. And humans with a clear sense of purpose tend to live longer, enjoying better health and an overall sense of well-being. One way to explore your purpose is to consider injustices that bother you. Think about how you can participate in positive change in that area, whether it's through a full-time pursuit or a part-time donation of your time. Now, we don't get political on this show. We don't get divisive. We talk generally speaking. So whatever you think is an injustice, whatever you see in the world as something that's problematic, I would encourage you to find a way to meet that need. And here are some blanket categories which you might do that through: environmental stewardship, animal welfare, literacy and education, health support, food security, and elder care. Those are some basic ways that you might find more purpose or meaning in your life if you don't have it. The basic question that I think everyone should ask is, what is my why? Why do I get up in the morning? What keeps me moving? And what drives me? And that is purpose. So that's how we provide self-care this week, is through looking for ways to get involved, to find a sense of purpose.
Protect the gimmick. Take a break, don't be
We did fly
silly.
through things this week, but that's okay. We've got, we're a lot longer than normal. Usually I shoot for about 10 to 12, 15 minutes tops, and we're already at 16. That's okay, because we're brand new audience members who wanted to introduce the segments and introduce the concept and welcome you to this community that we're building here over at the Falcon's Nest, which you can join. It's just $8.99 a month. I pay for one because the machine gun doesn't know how to give it to me for free, but that's okay. I'm happy to be part of it, and I'm happy to pay. Although if you wanted to buy me a coffee and help me pay for it, I wouldn't be mad. So if you look over here, here it is. You can buy me a coffee, or you can go to my Substack and subscribe there for free. Or if you wanted to donate to that Substack, you can also get a paid subscription. I do a weekly mental health blog, and then I also do a weekly podcast called Happy Monday, which you can find there and on YouTube, and also the audio version wherever you get podcasts. There's plenty of content out there from me wherever you'd like to find it. So I think that's it. Go find your Patreon subscription. Come join us in the chat, talk about books, talk about whatever. You'll find there's a welcoming community, a very hilarious community where we talk about all kinds of irreverent things over there in the Falcon's Nest. I'm glad to be part of it, glad to be here with you. And come back every Wednesday. Also look for a new High Spots and Hot Takes. That's our reaction video series coming your way soon. And in the meantime, this has been A Bitter Pill to Swallow.
It's a better pill to swallow.
The Bitter Pill with Kirk Shepard is part of the Talk and Shop media empire. The preceding video was produced as educational and entertainment content only. Kirk Shepard is a licensed mental health therapist. However, the material on this broadcast should not be considered clinical or representative of his professional work in that context.
It's a better pill to swallow.
Professor Bitterman is a fictional character and may not reflect his actual views and opinions. For more content from Kirk Shepard, go to kirkshepard.com. Follow him on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to his Substack and YouTube channels.
Please subscribe to the Talk and Shop podcast on YouTube for more content from the Good Brothers.